All right. Welcome to Relentless Conversations. This is sponsored by Move Your Biz Virtual Staffing, Manage Outsource Virtual Employee, a company that you need if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur that you need to take your business to the next level and your life to the next level. I'm Scott Empringham. I'm going to be your host today. And we are with a true game changer, somebody who epitomizes the relentless spirit, Anthony Geraci. Anthony Geraci, Esquire, is an EO member and an expert communicator if there ever was one. He was named super lawyer, rising stars in the legal field. Anthony is the managing shareholder of Geraci, LLC, where he is in charge of firm strategy and development of Geraci's team and culture. And over the past 2 years, his focus has shifted from practicing law to growing the firm as a whole. And he's now spearheading problems and working with department heads to run other teams, as well as other businesses, including Move Your Biz, of which he is the founder. Anthony is a friend, a mentor, and somebody I look to as somebody that is just an inspiration of an epitome of relentless, as I said. So I'm super excited to be chatting with you today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Scott. I'm excited to be here, bud.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So today's conversation is about communication. It's about how to master communication and get what you want. So let me start with just a really fundamental question. Why is communication so difficult, and what prevents good communication to start with?
Yeah, communication is really difficult if you think about it. And if you go all the way back to where communication really takes place, it's me and you, in our caveman outfits or whatever you want to imagine, and off to go hunt mammoth, right? And how do we, since it's bigger than us, how do we coordinate that hunt to bring food home to our families? And so trying to coordinate that, and really all communication, as I say it, if I had to break it down to its base level, is I have an idea in my head and I'm trying to convey that to you. We don't have telepathy. So I've got to use what we do, which is my body language and my words, to convey the idea in my head so that you understand exactly what my idea is.
And what are the things that prevent that? What are the things that sort of get in the way of that clear communication?
Oh, gosh. I mean,
on the mammoth hunt.
On the mammoth hunt, there are a lot of things that get involved in our communication. And the number one thing that gets in the way is us, our mindset. Whether do we come from abundance or scarcity? Our thought process. Well, I don't like Scott. I'm very suspicious. I think he's going to let the mammoth kill me. So I don't know if I'm going to go all the way in and get killed by that mammoth. Maybe I'll let Scott go first, and Scott gets killed by the mammoth. And then how we view the world. What do we look at? What are experiences that we've had? Mammoths are easy to kill. If I kill it, if I hit it right in the heart, or maybe I've never seen a mammoth before, and I just stay there and stare at it. These are all kinds of things that go into the entire you, if you will. And through that, how your ideas are conveyed, how you see the world is how communication happens or usually does not happen.
And so I like the metaphor of a mammoth. We're going to go out on this mammoth hunt, and every person that's a business owner probably envisions that future as we want to get that mammoth. We want to coordinate people. I have a quick question. Let's go back to younger Anthony. Where did you first start to get interested in communication? What motivated you to really understand communication and make it work for you and your multiple businesses?
Yeah, the origin of my communication journey, and I want to emphasize, I still consider myself very much a student, not a master, always learning, comes early on. And it's a transition from, I will say, doer to leader. And doer, look, I can do it myself. Scott has no idea how to kill a mammoth. Scott, just go sit down. I'll go kill the mammoth for you. We'll go eat, and you take some of the meat home. But if we had a pack of mammoths, right? It's way too big for myself. How do I communicate? And I'm sure this will be a great surprise to people. I found very early on I was a very poor communicator. I know this will shock everybody. So, but no, it's funny because it comes back down to the same thing. How do I communicate an idea that I have in my brain so that you understand exactly what that idea is? And 99 times out of 100, no one understood what I was thinking because I failed to communicate that vision, that idea to employees. And so as I transitioned more from doer to leader, I realized because the only value I had at this point was not my doing. I'm no longer doing anything. I'm leading. I'm asking people to take this vision and build it. And the lack of communicating that vision equals really bad results. It's like building a foundation really poorly.
So let's squeeze some juice out of this mammoth analogy. We're casting vision. All the tribe is gathered around, and you're talking to everybody about the vision of going after these mammoths. What tools or strategies do you use to onboard people with the vision? And then we're going to go deeper and talk about the misalignment and the people who are dragging their feet. But let's start at the very beginning. You've got everybody together and you're talking, it's mammoth hunting season. What tools or strategies do you use to get everybody on the same page?
It'll sound, Simon Sinek wrote the book, but start with why. Why are we killing the mammoth in the first place? Do we all want to kill the mammoth? Maybe we don't, right? And so making sure we understand why. Why, at least for a mammoth, should be fairly basic. Hey, if we kill this mammoth, we have clothing, right, for our backs. We have food for our belly, and our family lives. So at its base level, right, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we're fulfilling this right now and killing this mammoth. So probably a lot of people can get behind that. But starting with why, because if you start with how, you don't know whether people are bought in. Maybe I don't want to kill the mammoth. Maybe I want to sit down and why can't we just eat plants and vegetables, right? So that's the question. Why? Getting everybody bought into the why of why we're doing things, and then focus on the how. How are we going to kill it?
Got it. All right. So I love it. So we've got everybody starting with the why. Great tool. I remember the Simon Sinek. I think it was why. What were the 3 concentric circles? Do you remember? I know why was the first one, and then it was what, and then how, or what, how, and then what. It was why, what, how. So we've got the why. Everybody's on board. You've described the what we're going to do, and then you've described the how. Is everybody on board? And how do you deal with the people that say they're on board, but really aren't, or just outwardly not on board? 2 very different types of people that we all find in our organizations.
Yeah, I think it comes down to belief systems. And my belief system is no one shows up to work saying, how do I suck today? I really feel like sucking, and I'm going to suck really good today. I don't honestly believe that, because funny enough, if you had those people and you can spot those people, those are pretty easy people to spot, and you can fire them immediately, or they leave on their own. So we usually don't have those types of people in our organizations. What we usually have is, I don't know, Scott's my leader. I very doubt his vision. I'm not trying to suck here, but I don't think he knows what we're doing. I know what the vision is, and he sucks at it, right? So no non-belief in the vision or how you're articulating it, or, sometimes they're dealing with their own worldview, their own problems, something at home, for instance, and brought to work or something like that. So really try to find out, and talking with your people, connecting with your people in particular, what is it you care about? Why are you here? And, it's funny. Yes, we're all here generally for some pay. We don't do this for free, but I don't think I think that's the base reason. I think people are at jobs for very different reasons. It's the same reason people will take a pay cut. Pay is important. It helps us live, but it's not the end all be all. It's not the only reason we do things.
So I like that idea of the belief and sort of the assumption that there's positive intent on behalf of the other person. Nobody shows up intentionally wanting to do lousy at their job. I love that. So the second part of it is, how do you approach difficult conversations? You've cast vision. We're going to go hunt mammoth. You've created the plan and you start out, but you see somebody is struggling. They're falling behind and they're putting the rest of the tribe at risk. How do you approach difficult conversations? Do you have strategies? Do you have tools on how you approach those conversations?
Yeah, and funny enough, I think they're based in psychology, in the sense of, stop talking and listen, right? And ask a lot of questions. So here's and I think it's humanity at its basic. We put people and things in boxes, right? It comes back to that fight versus flight instinct. We need a box because that way we understand it, right? Dinosaur, bad. Mammoth, bad, but we need food, so good to hunt it, type of thing, right? There's these base boxes that we have everything. And funny enough, we do this with our employees and our people too. Oh, they're not getting the job done. They're bad. Instead of understanding, well, what's the motive behind it and what's really going on in their lives. So approaching difficult conversations to me would be, say, Scott, you were my employee. And it's like, Scott, look, I need to understand a few things if you have some time. I needed this project done by May 1st, and today is May 15th, and the project is still not done. Why is that? So I stop with any assumptions, right? I don't want to assume things are bad, right? Because once we get there, we can get to that bad conclusion very easily, but there may be reasons why things haven't happened. And of course, it'll be up to you as the boss, is this a valid reason or not? Why did that project get done, Scott? I didn't feel like getting it done. Well, that's very easy. Well, you're not going to be here much longer without those type of feelings. Or, well, Scott, don't you remember? You asked me not to do it on May 1st. You had me do this other project, and I told you, if you want this done, I can't do it till May 15th. Oh, I totally forgot about that. Right? So as leaders, we don't have perfect memory. We're humans too. And there could be some other reasons. So I always walk into difficult conversations with curiosity. I want to know why things are the way they are. Because again, if it comes down to the end conclusion of, I don't want to be here and this job sucks, that's easy to me. That's hey, let me fire you. Not in a negative spirit, but let me fire you because you're not happy here and I'm not happy with you. Let you go free to go find the job that you'll be happy with.
Okay, I like it. So let's keep going with the mammoth. The mammoth. I love this metaphor. So we've gathered our tribe together. Well, because it's kind of this sort of it's this wonderful sort of metaphor, but everybody sort of feels like if you're in business, you're out conquering, killing mammoth, getting new business and building the business. So you started with why. You've got everybody enrolled with why you're doing this. Mammoth feed, help support the community. You're talking about what strategies for the second one, and I'm going back a little bit, but what strategies do you have to get the what as clear and specific as possible so everybody knows and is on the same page? It's not one mammoth we're looking for, but we're actually looking for like 5 mammoth.
Yep. I love the what as well, because here's what I learned, and I had a blind spot. So, I'm going to tell a story within a story, but I promise I'll get back to it. So I had a business coach, and I remember sharing, I have this frustration with my assistant. It's like, she does not get everything I want done. And I don't understand why she doesn't get it done. And so he asked, okay, well, tell me what's going on. Well, I need this report. I need this, and I need this. And she frustrates me. She doesn't get it done. Well, have you ever asked her to do it? What do you mean? Have you actually specifically said, I need this report by 9 a.m. on Monday every single week? Well, no, she should just know it. I was like, is she a mind reader? No, but so within that story is to answer your question, which how do you get people on the same page with what? As much as you can, and it is human frailty, never assume. So I'm not going to assume go back to the mammoth story. I'm not going to assume you know how to use your spear, right? I want to say, hey, we all have spears. I want to make sure you guys understand. When we stab this mammoth, there's only 2 fragile spots, the heart, and I don't know what else. I don't know mammoths anatomy that well, right? But when we go up there, I want you to run, and I want you to stab upward into the heart. If you stab the leg, it's not going to be any good. You stab a tail, not going to be any good. We have to get the mammoth's heart to bring the mammoth down so that we can all feed our families and eat. So never assume. That's the biggest part. It's like, and that was the biggest lesson for me out of a lot of things in my life. So, then that brings back to any business. Do you hey, I need this project done. What are the steps necessary? And I'll ask my people, what are the steps you think are necessary to get that report done by May 15th?
And they go through and they back through, sort of start with a goal and then give you the steps that it's going to take to get it done.
Right. Because we start with the goal, right? Our goal, our why, we're going to go kill the mammoth. We have to kill the mammoth. Why? Because we need to eat, we need clothing, what have you. So that's the what. We're killing the mammoth. Well, are you sure we don't want to maim the mammoth? No, we need to kill the mammoth to get the food and everything like that, right? Okay, so we're committed to killing. That's the goal. Now, how will we kill that mammoth? Yeah.
What are some of the best books? And I also want to ask you about some different business management systems, because I know you've been exposed as a member of Entrepreneur Now organization for 10 years.
10 years. Yeah.
10 years. You've been exposed to literally hundreds, if not thousands of different books. I know you're a voracious reader, so I want to ask you some questions about book recommends. You're an author as well. And I know you're well-versed in the different business management systems. give a plug, don't give a plug for a business management system, but are they important for managing communications? To what degree do they play as a business owner in onboarding one of these business management systems, whether it's MAP, EOS, or somebody else?
They're absolutely important. I mean, think about it this way. How do you get on the same page, right? That communication of an idea, the why. Why? Why are we killing the mammoth? Why are we in business? To make money? Of course, right? We're all going to, but the money, as we both know, Scott, is a byproduct of getting that communication right, getting the goals right, and getting the intangibles, if you will, correct. You get all that right, money shows up. You don't get that right, money does not show up, and you wonder, well, shoot, where's the money? So yeah, it's I call it an entrepreneurial system is so huge. And I have a lot of endorsements. But I want to be very clear. I've learned something from all of them, right? There's not one style that is the end all be all, in my personal opinion. You can learn something from all of them. MAP, funny enough, I just had lunch with Michael Cato yesterday, and he's just a great giving guy. He's the CEO of MAP, for those who don't know him, and just an amazing entrepreneur in his own right. And they're working on some amazing things, with not only teaching your managers stuff, but as well as some of the books that they're working on writing. So that's going to be exciting. So, and I believe MAP's biggest book that Michael told me was this Discipline Leader. It's about 52 chapters, if I recall. There's a lot of nuggets in that book. So I do love that book. From a system, I love scaling up, but I love mixing that with 4 disciplines of execution. So 40X, if you've read those two. So scaling up gives you a nice system overall, but I think 40X gives you the vision, right? So there's this part in 40X, which I love, which explains the whirlwind. And it makes so much sense is, you wonder why you don't get enough done during the day. Well, what happens between 9 to 5? You're in meetings, you're in phone calls. We're doing this, right? All the goals that you have do not get done in the whirlwind. Do not get done 9 to 5. When do they get done? Between 4 a.m. and 9 a.m. if you're an early person, or 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. if you're a late person. Or you need to carve time during that whirlwind where no one can touch you to get your goals done. But I think the fallacy is we assume that goals get done during the workday. They don't get done during the workday at all. Implementation of other goals get done, but not working on them and making things happen. So I love that part. The other part of 40X is scorecard. So that's a great book. As I said, scaling up is wonderful. EOS had again, different take on scaling up, but they all have very similar pieces. And whatever you use, I'm not here to tell people you must use one or the other, but you must have a system. That one is not negotiable. You must have daily check-ins, weekly check-ins, monthly check-ins, whatever that cadence is, depending on where you're at as a company. You must be on the same page. You must communicate that vision. Remember, we're talking about communicating that vision to kill the mammoth. Well, if you are a leader and not a doer anymore, you're not killing the mammoth. You're teaching people how to kill that mammoth, or you're making sure we're all killing the mammoth together. And I don't think that's very, very well. You can do it, but it's not going to be as efficient and definitely not as timely as if you had a system. Here's the how to kill a mammoth book, if you will, or a system that checks in. Well, did we make those spears? Do we have 20 spears? What did the spears break? Right? All those things that go into making sure we have the equipment and the tools necessary to kill that mammoth would be part of that system.
With all that you've read on communication or having difficult conversations, is there 1 or 2 books that stick out that somebody should go pick up if they want to master communication or having difficult conversations, or they're facing a difficult conversation?
Yeah, they're funny enough, that is titled "How to Have Difficult Conversations." That is a great book, and just walking through how is it that we can approach one another, and the basic tenets of that book is try to understand where the other person is coming from. And that is very, very difficult because we only know where we come from, right? But I almost take that mindset we were talking about earlier, which is no one wants to suck at work. Well, hopefully if they're a friend of yours, they're not saying, I really want to, how do I make Scott's life really painful today? Let me think, right? And again, if that's their goal, it's really easy. Hey, you're no longer a friend, right? But there's probably some miscommunication. And, it's funny how difficult conversations usually arise out of miscommunication. There's a great quote by George Bernard Shaw. The greatest illusion that has ever taken place is communication. We think communication has happened, but how often have we had miscommunication? And as a result of that miscommunication, usually friction happens, right? You've got friction for a fire. And that's where, this bridge or gap, if you will, between people to have those difficult conversations come back and really, unite again.
I'm curious, and this is a random thought. This wasn't one of the list of questions I had for you. Is there anything that you wouldn't communicate? Like you're talking about killing the mammoth, you're talking about the why and the what and the how. Is there anything you avoid communicating, or entrepreneurs or business people should avoid communicating to keep everybody's eye on the ball? Is there a risk of over communicating?
Absolutely, right? There's also a risk of oversharing, right? You can overshare your personal life, for instance, especially in the workforce, or over communicating and confusing what that ball is, right? If you have three balls, and Mark Kohler with Lead with Purpose, I was just at his workshop, and he had a great example. What he does, he puts all these things on a screen, and you have a minute to count how many yellow and red things were on there. You don't see it, but it said, let me clear all these things away that aren't a yellow or red. He puts it on there. They're still cluttered. Okay, that's weird. But once you organize and distill it, then you can easily count how quickly that is. And same thing for a leader. I think the worst thing a leader could do is show up and throw up type of thing, right? We give you all the communication, but a highly filtered communication, not from a risk standpoint, but just let me organize where we're going, why we're going, and how we're going to do it. It is a lot more impactful and de-risks the communication not being communicated, if that makes sense. Your idea, you want everybody to see 6 yellow squares and 10 red stars. Don't throw them moons and dots and everything. Just give them the stars and the squares.
Right. I know that you've got experience in coaching other attorneys and other lawyers. And there's a question for the attorneys and the lawyers you've coached, as well as just other business people that you've coached. Is there, I got a question from you. I'll drop that question in there. It's going to take me a second. When you coach people, are there any misconceptions that you see coming up about communication? And maybe you've already alluded to this, like the illusion that it's already taken place. Mm-hmm. Are there any other mistakes that we make that fundamentally, or CEOs or leaders make with communication on a consistent basis, where you think, gosh, if they cleared that one thing up, it would be so much better?
Yeah, but it's hard to see it at the time, right? You're talking about this, I need to correct Scott, and we need to talk to him. And then, but I'm outside looking in, and I say, well, is that really your number one focus? You need to go correct Scott right now? Or do you need to go get money because you're 5 days out of business, right? Reorienting the focus. And I think, I can speak for myself, but this has been my experience with, I will say, other CEOs that attorneys who run their own practice are basically the same thing, mm-hmm. is shiny object syndrome, SOS, right? I'm onto the new shiny, new fuzzy, and I forgot what my priority is. And funny enough, just reorienting that priority is like, you may have forgotten this, is like, you are 5 days out of money. Did you forget that? And you want to go talk to Scott about something that he's doing on a project. And it's more of a question. It's like, where should your number one focus be right now? Correcting Scott's language in a project, or 5 days out of money, right? Just reorienting the focus, because sometimes that gets lost.
Man, so that brings up so many things. I think that's such a great piece of advice. Keeping your focus on the main thing. Keep the main thing the main mm-hmm. thing, which sounds so simple, but it's hard. What advice or suggestions do you have for people that are managing up? So not so much the CEO down mm-hmm. or across, but managing up. How do you manage those communications? How do you tell your boss that they're screwing up? How do you tell the owner of the company that you believe they're missing the target? How do you tell them bad news?
Hopefully just like that, right? Hopefully your boss or your CEO or your company has created such an environment that you can have those kind of conversations. Obviously not all the time. Not every company has that honesty, if you will. In every company I run or own, I try to create that freedom, right? Anthony, you're a fuck up. I was like, yeah, could be. I get it. Some days, tell me why though, to help me understand why you think we need to change direction or something like that. And I give room, I do want to hear, I do care. I want to listen. So understanding that, right? What company are you in? Hopefully you're happy in that company. If you're not happy in that company, that's a completely different conversation, right? And that now it's time to, is this something you want to coach, and it should be in an environment that accepts coaching? Because some leaders, as we know, they will dictate from the hip, and it's like, this is my company, my leadership, you will understand, or you will follow my direction. That's going to be a very difficult conversation for a CEO to hear, not even to have, right? You can have that conversation, but if they're not willing to listen, you're going to fall on deaf ears. So that question would be, are you even in the right company? So coming all the way back to that original thought is, hopefully you have an environment where your boss is receptive to what you have to say. Because if they are, and they should be, then your ideas will be incorporated, or at least at the minimum, I understand, I thought about that too, and here's why we're going this direction. Here's why we're killing the mammoth, going back all the way back to that example. We need food for our family. I understand that, you don't think this may be right for a variety of ethical reasons or what have you, but we got to eat. And eating takes precedence over that. That's why we're doing it. Or maybe they show you, instead of that mammoth, there's 2 mammoths over here, more meat, bigger, and they're just laying there. Easier kills. And so that may be something receptive. So CEOs should also recognize, hey, you don't have to have all the ideas. Not only that, hopefully you've hired some bright people, not only just to do things, but to help you with ideas as well.
There's it reminds me of, as you said that, are there any frameworks to having difficult conversations that you suggest? Like, one that I was taught years ago was feel, felt, found. You hear something that somebody is struggling with something, and you really want to give them a piece of advice, or maybe encourage them in a different direction, and say, I understand how you feel. I've felt the same way. And what I found is by doing X, I've gotten this result. Do you like those frameworks? Do you suggest those frameworks? Do you avoid them? Or are there other frameworks that you have that you think are really phenomenal to help manage that path and just make it a little bit easier for people to navigate conversations?
Yeah. No. I love those frameworks that help navigate difficult conversations, or to say easier conversations, because I think what's natural, and we come back all the way back to humanity's basic fight versus flight syndrome, which is, I feel attacked. And when I say, Scott, you really screwed up, you automatically get on the defensive, right? You're already now, okay, guard up. And this conversation is not going to go probably the way that someone wants to. And the other way is like, I feel hurt because of this action that you did. So it's very much an experience share, or, owning my experience in this case is like, here's how I took what you did, Scott. I felt when you told me to go away, I felt rejected. I felt misunderstood. And as a result, I don't feel like I was heard. Right. So very much focusing on your own experience and sharing that experience with somebody, instead of saying, Scott, you're not hearing me, you're an idiot, versus I feel not heard because of your actions. Just taking that ownership of I versus you. It's funny how that conversation now has changed into something that someone is going to take more receptive, because my flight versus flight response is not triggered. I'm not trying to say, okay, am I killing someone, or am I running? And my brain, the animal instinct going on. I'm now more receptive to hearing it when you tell me your experience. And I can be like, oh gosh, Scott, I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry about that. That's my fault. I really wanted to hear ideas. This is what I was trying to convey, right? It all comes back to miscommunication.
I love that. Well, so you got a wow moment from Kelly Autoglass, who that connected with, and so many of the things I think that you say have connected with me over the years. I'm curious, to what extent has your law degree, your law background, influenced your communication? Or is it something you intentionally turn on or turn off? Because litigating in your personal life may not be as powerful as litigating in your professional life.
Oh, absolutely. Because, funny enough, law, right? We are taught to construct arguments, and I can give you 5 reasons why I'm right.
Right.
It doesn't matter I'm right. That's the way I feel that I'm right, but does being right matter? And I tell you, the older I get, the more I figure out is what was once objective words are now subjective. Even something as subjective as good, right? Or that's good. That's a subjective word, right? What's good to me may not be good for you, and vice versa, right? And so recognizing and empathizing, if you will, trying to understand where somebody else is coming from has done really well for me, especially in my personal life versus my professional life, because I may not be so worried about opposing counsels where they're coming from in my professional life. But in my personal life, yes, I'm absolutely wondering where my friends are coming from, because my goal isn't to alienate them or to be right. It is my goal, though, to be understood and be heard.
And so let's get to that's perfect segue, really. And just 7 or 8 days. We're going to be in Palm Springs. In fact, I believe I have the link queued up. Let me paste it. Yep. I'm going to paste your information, Anthony Geraci, a link to Move Your Biz and a link to EO Relentless, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. I am super pumped. You are going to be keynoting that. And one of the things that you're going to be talking about is how to communicate effectively to get what you want. Can you give us a summary, a digest of some of the key nuggets that people will learn and sort of experience when they're there in Palm Springs and what we can take away today?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of everything we talked about, some version of that's going to come out in my talk, but part of it also, it comes back down to, I try to bridge the gap between humanity and what is now. So part of, I would say our history and what I truly believe is no one goes out in the world wanting to understand, right? I don't want to understand you, Scott. I don't want to understand the mammoth, if you will. I want to be understood. I want people to understand me. So, it's that ego, that selfishness within that I want people to understand me. And that's such a need, I think, of most people is like, and understanding that, right? If we want to be understood, how do we get better at being understood, right? How do we communicate and convey ideas? And so we're going to go through a lot of that, and if you will, some warning signs as a result. And this is no secret. This is part of it, which is a Harvard study. They came out and they even say the percentages are not not completely accurate to be relied upon, but it's kind of basic. Is you've got 55% on body language, 38% in verbal intonation, and only 7% for words. And what I'll say there is, it's funny. Have you ever gone to a foreign movie or watched a foreign movie and the only thing you can read is subtitles? But even without subtitles, you can get the gist of what's going on in the scene.
Yes.
And that's the body language and verbal intonation. You know when someone's angry, right? They look angry, they're mad, they clench fists, they do arms crossed. So body language and verbal intonation is so key to our communication with each other. And in my personal belief, this is why I love Zoom. Trust me, I love Zoom for maintaining relationships, but they will never replace relationships but by being physical, because for whatever reason, we need to look someone in the eye and say, can I trust this person or do I need to flee from this person?
Well, I'm looking forward to that. And I'm wondering if you can share maybe a real story from your life, from your business, where you had to have a difficult conversation or a crucial conversation on really trying to inform, communicate what you needed from someone or something. And can you tell us that story? How did it, the first sort of idea that comes to your mind about a difficult conversation you had to have in your own life, in your own professional life, and how that got resolved?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I'm trying to think of one. There's been so many conversations at any given time, and I think what it comes down to is different places in my life. But I'll share with you the story that's immediately coming to impact right now. So I'm going to rewind the clock 14 years, and there was no secret. I founded the firm in 2007. And then in 2010, between 2007 and 2010, the mortgage crisis was happening. A lot of the clients that I service, which are mortgage lenders, were going out of business. And as a result, we were running a deficit in revenue, right? Servicing clients, but there's no way we would keep on going up. And so I called the team together and I said, hey, we've got to do a few things. We're either going to keep sticking this out, or we've got to make some changes. And part of the changes is we're moving office locations, we're bringing on a partner, and I need you guys to just believe in the vision and come with me. And, it's funny, there's still many attorneys that work at Geraci, for instance, that were part of that conversation. And they're still here, 5-10 years later as a result. So how that difficult conversation was being brutally honest with people, right? And that's telling people why. Coming all the way back to how we started this conversation. Why are we doing this? Because if we don't do this, we will be out of business and bankrupt. What are we doing? We're cutting down costs. We're relocating from this high-rise office down to this 4-story office on Martin Street in Irvine, because we've got to reduce our office space 80% to make it in line with our current revenue. How are we going to do it? We're going to need everybody's help.
One of the things I think is extraordinary about you is, and you model this as an individual, is creating an environment of open communication. Obviously, I've had the privilege of being in forum with you, and never did in the 6 or 7 years that we were together, or 5 years, whatever it was. You had a culture about you of you could say anything to me. I got thick skin, and therefore I should be able to say anything to you, and it was never coming across as judgmental or anything like that. It goes to the core of a question that a lot of people struggle with. How do you create a culture of open communication? There's plenty of examples of toxic communication. There's plenty of examples of people who are just shut down, unwilling to share with the other person because they know the reaction, or they believe they know the reaction of the other person. But how do you open that up? How do you create that open communication from the start?
I think it starts with you as the leader, right? I think every company is a reflection of the leader, right or wrong. You've seen these, bad company, bad leader generally. Good company, good leader. That's not always the case, but usually it starts at the top as far as culture and how these are coming. So I was hugely inspired by Bob Parsons. I don't know if you know Bob Parsons from back in the GoDaddy days. He had these rules, 16 rules to live by. And I thought it was great. I used to have it. Literally, when I found the firm, I had it on my desktop to just keep it. And then I had a poster on my wall. But I've since gone through what my life is, and I created my own rules. And one of the rules is don't believe your own BS, and I think that's key. If you want to stay humble, and I do believe humbleness is not only a good thing, but a necessary thing. Because if you don't stay humble, if you don't stay hungry, then you're going to miss some things. And that's going to, cause you a lot of pain down the road. And so don't believe your own BS is understand some basic things. We are all human. We put our pants on the same way. I still put on the left leg than right leg. I put on socks and I wear shoes. I drive a car. I drive to work and I work, right? It's funny. Is the basic stuff is we're all still human. And I don't care whether you have $1 in your pocket or $100 billion. No one puts on pants differently, right? So just keeping that in mind is, and some other things like we talked about is I don't believe anyone shows up to work saying, I'm going to suck today. How do I get the bare minimum done? I don't believe that. All I believe really is that people are uninspired, right? They don't care about your why. They don't care about the mammoth why, and they're gone. And by the way, I think that's a good thing sometimes. Some people are not going to be bought into your mission, and that's okay because they're people too. They need to go find that mission, whatever that is for them. Maybe they want to be a gatherer and go get plants, and they want to go find other people who want to get plants. There's nothing wrong with that. We're all people. We're all different people. And whatever that is for somebody, we all deserve happiness at the end of the day. And I truly believe that. So as a result is if you're bought into this mission, I want you with me. I want to go to war with you, go to battle, and we're going to conquer it together. By means, I also, if you're not bought into this, I want you to go away, not in a negative way, not in a mean-spirited way, but because I do believe you deserve happiness, I want you to go away and go find that, right? Don't try to kill the mammoth. You're not bought into killing the mammoth. Go find something else that you're bought into and love.
And which brings me to another question. And it's sort of an observation of what I've noticed about you over the years. You are one of the tough, and I don't even know how to language this because this doesn't quite fit you, but you're one of the toughest business people I've met in terms of shrewd. You have multiple businesses. You can make decisions so quickly. I mean, you are an entrepreneur's entrepreneur, and yet you have an extraordinary amount of empathy. Troy Hoffman and I talked about some of our experiences with you. You know some of our experiences. What role does empathy play in communication?
I mean, empathy in communication is almost everything. Because empathy is the ability to step out of your own shoes and step into someone else's, right? If you want to truly understand where people are coming from, I think you have to take that journey. And this is something that, that we'll talk about in my talk. If you want to understand people, whose job is it to have that empathy? That's mine, right? That's yours if you want to understand somebody. It's not theirs. It's you have to have the empathy. And, we could go on the victimization trail of, that's not right. That's the problem. None of that to me matters. What matters is I want to understand people. So I must have empathy. I want to be on that journey with them because I do believe that stories make up who we are and our life. And I think this about me, Scott, and I tell everybody this, I love stories. I love that because I think that's truly the fabric of humanity. All the stories, right? We've been telling stories from the dawn of time. And as a result, we all have our own story. And I want to know everybody's story. I want to know where you come from, what that is. And if I understand where you come from, right? Come all the way back to the rose-colored glasses we wear. If I understand where you come from, I can kind of understand why you see a situation the way you do. Not always, because there's other factors. But I get a sense of, oh, I think Scott sees this because of X, whatever that is. And it's not a judgment, right? I would be very clear, like you were saying. I'm not judging when I have empathy. I just want to understand. So I know how to better communicate my idea and how to better explain where we're going as a result of understanding where you're coming from.
Fantastic. A couple final questions is, now there might be some people that are watching this saying, hey, I'm interested in seeing Tim Grover. I'm interested in going to EO Relentless. I'm interested to learn more about entrepreneur organization and what you've essentially created with this event through your work at Move Your Biz, through your work at Geraci LLC, just all the stuff that you're doing. What can they find there? Why does somebody want to attend if they're a business owner and they're looking to level up and they're looking to get to the next level? What is it they will find, discover, learn, and how will they grow at EO Relentless?
That's such a great question. Here's what you're going to find at EO Relentless, and here's how you're going to grow. And it's based on my personal experience. So I've been in EO for 10 years, and it's been my personal journey. And so I want to share that with you all through EO Relentless. So let me tell you what that means. Is I joined EO because I want to be a better business person. That's great. I think we all do. We want to be better business people in general. What I found, though, in order to be a better business person, I needed to be a better person first. I need to understand myself better, my thing better, empathy with people, become a better person so that I can become a better business person. And the converse isn't true. I don't become a better business person and then become a better person. I become a better person to become a better business person. So how does all that work? EO Relentless to me is a highly curated event. It's a 2-day event. We're going to focus on that personal growth, that personal journey on day 1. And on day 2, the business journey, the business growth. And that was intentionally done because, again, personal growth comes before business growth. So on day 1, we've got an amazing set of speakers, Scott, yourself included. I can't wait to hear your talk. I know you've been working on it over the last few years too. But one of the highlights is a gentleman by the name of Jason Rosenthal, who is also an attorney. But his wife, Amy Rosenthal, was dying of stage 4 cancer. And as a result of that, she knew time was ticking. She wrote an article to the New York Times, not about herself, not about anything else, but this was the title, Why You Should Marry My Husband. And that impacts me on several different levels. Talk about empathy, right? The amazingness of understanding your time is at an end and you want happiness for someone you love. And this is why you should marry my husband. And I for one, I will be in the audience for sure because I want to go through that journey with him. Yeah, he's lived it. How does one go there? What is the impact on you? Your wife who's dying wrote an article, Why You Should Marry My Husband. I can't even imagine the psychological impact from a loving standpoint, right? Selfless love at its finest is right there. And then also the journey through grief and loss and, what is next for him? I have no words. If you can tell, I don't know what that's going to look like. I just know it's so impactful to me as far as what can I learn. I can tell you, I'm going to be selfishly learning from that too. What can I learn about myself from selfless love, from that kind of level of empathy and just pure love? And how do I take that to my business, to the people around me, to my friends? That's going to be amazing. And then of course, day 2, we've got Tim Grover highlighting day 2. And, he trained Michael Jordan. He trained Kobe Bryant. He trained the greats. And I don't think this is any different to Scott. I know you and I very much follow Tim and other people like him, which is a lot of this is mindset. And it's funny, if you change your mind, you change your world. And if you can change your mind and you change your world, you change everything. You change other people's lives as a result. And I'm excited to learn from him. He came out with a new book, as you know, Winning. And we're going to have autographed copies of that book. He's going to sign everything in that day. And I'm excited not only to read it, but also get a copy of it and just meet him, someone who I look up to as well, as a huge impact, not just on sports, right? Because I think it's more than that. Sports is what he does. His impact is much greater as far as the mindset necessary to win.
I love it. I am so pumped. I am so excited to be there. And I feel honored and just beyond happy and grateful that you asked me to be there. And I'm just beyond pumped. I've reread Relentless and I reread Winning and bought another copy because I couldn't find my other copy of Winning. So I'm rereading it again.
We'll have another one for you now on Sunday.
Awesome. I can't wait. In our final minute together, if you could go give this, I can't believe how fast the time flew. If you could give your younger self, go back to little Anthony, and give yourself one piece of advice based on the experiences and lessons you've learned throughout your career and your life, and you're talking to 10-year-old Anthony, what advice would you give him?
Jump faster. And what I mean by that is I've done really well, I think, in a lot of terms, but, I wonder what I could have been, if I did faster. It's funny, coming from a guy who dropped out of 8th grade, got my GED, got my education, got my law degree, all that fun stuff. I wonder what I could have done if I didn't go, to get my history degree and my law degree. That was 7 years, and I don't consider them wasted, right? I love where I'm at. I mean, the second piece of advice would be, don't worry, it's all going to work out okay, and it has. But you asked the very first piece of advice I would give, which is jump faster, which is have the confidence to know you're going to figure it out, and understand that the best time to fail is in your late teens and early 20s. Why? Because you have nothing to lose. It's once we get saddled with kids, mortgage, responsibility, things become riskier and riskier. And that at least has inhibited me sometimes not to jump faster. But I can tell you the jumps have been worthwhile and the leaps have made everything better. And I just wish I understood that earlier.
I love that. And on that, we could also take a lesson from Tim Grover, who says, when you want to be relentless, when you want to win at the highest level, train hard. But once you're done training, remember, act, don't think, take action. So if you're thinking about Relentless, if you're thinking about you need a virtual employee for your business, jump, don't think about it. Click on the link for Move Your Biz, click on the link for EO Relentless, get started today. Anthony, I can't thank you enough for being on Relentless Conversations. It's been a pleasure. The time flew. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you in Palm Springs.
I'll see you next week, brother. Thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Awesome, man. Good to see you.